All right, get ready, because today we're going deep into something truly amazing. The brain's incredible ability to rewire itself. We've all heard that old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Right.
Well, it turns out that's totally wrong.
It is, yeah. We used to think the brain was kind of fixed and static, but now we know it's a lot more dynamic.
Okay.
It's more like a city that's under constant construction, always adapting and changing.
Right.
And even healing itself.
So through this process of neuroplasticity.
That's right.
So how does this rewiring actually work? Is it like magic or something?
Well, it's definitely magical in a way, but there's real science behind it.
Okay.
So think of it as a three-phase repair process.
Okay.
So first, when there's an injury or even just new learning happening, the brain's immune cells, called microglia, they rush to the scene like tiny first responders. They clear out debris and kickstart the healing process.
So they're kind of like the cleanup crew.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And interestingly, inflammation, which we usually think of as a bad thing, actually helps. It acts as a temporary scaffold to kind of stabilize that injured area.
I've always wondered about that inflammation. So it's like putting up those orange cones and detour signs after a road gets damaged, right?
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
It's not pretty, but it's necessary for repairs.
Exactly.
Okay, so what happens next?
Next comes the reconstruction phase. So this is where the surviving neurons, the brain's communication lines, start sprouting new connections, like telephone lines, desperately seeking to reconnect after a storm.
Right.
At the same time, astrocytes, another type of brain cell, create the perfect healing environment for this rewiring to happen.
So it's like the city's rebuilding and creating those new pathways after that storm, making sure everything is connected and working again.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible.
It really is.
So, and finally.
And finally, you have the refinement stage.
Okay.
So these new connections that are working well, they get stronger and more efficient, just like a well-traveled highway.
Okay.
And the pathways that aren't being used, they get pruned away for better efficiency.
So that's kind of like a city optimizing its traffic flow.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the brain is constantly fine-tuning itself for peak performance.
It is.
That's wild.
Yeah.
What I find really mind-blowing is how this plays out in real life. I mean, are there actual examples of this rewiring happening in people?
Oh, there are some truly remarkable cases. One that really highlights the brain's adaptability is the story of Roger Frisch, a concert violinist who played his violin.
Wait, seriously?
During brain surgery.
He played the violin while having brain surgery?
Yes.
Tell me more.
So the surgeons needed to remove a tumor from Roger's brain, but they were worried about damaging the areas that controlled his fine motor skills.
I see.
So they kept him awake during surgery.
Wow.
And had him play his violin to make sure those areas were protected.
Okay.
It allowed them to map his brain in real time and avoid any critical areas.
So playing the violin helped surgeons avoid damaging those precise areas of his brain.
It did, yeah.
That's incredible.
It really shows how intricate and delicate the brain is.
Right.
And also how far neuroscience and surgical techniques have come.
Absolutely, yeah.
Another case that always fascinates me is the story of a woman known as E.G., who lost her entire right hemisphere at the age of 15 due to a tumor.
So typically the right hemisphere plays a big role in language processing.
That's right.
So you'd think losing an entire half of her brain would make speaking incredibly difficult, if not impossible.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
But E.G.'s brain did something astonishing. It completely reorganized itself, allowing her remaining left hemisphere to take over those language functions.
Wow.
And incredibly, she went on to become a successful speech pathologist.
It just blows my mind.
It is amazing.
It seems like we may have underestimated the brain's potential for adaptation.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, this has huge implications for all of us.
It really does.
Yeah.
And what's so exciting about this field is we're still making new discoveries all the time about how the brain works and how it can heal.
Ooh, new discoveries.
Yeah.
This is where it gets really interesting for me.
Okay.
What have you learned lately that's particularly fascinating?
Well, for one thing, recent research has shown that sleep isn't just about rest. It's actually when a lot of the brain's repair and consolidation of learning happens.
Really?
It's like the city's maintenance crew coming out at night to clean up and make repairs.
Yeah.
Well, everything is quiet.
So while we're sleeping, our brains are hard at work cleaning up, rewiring, and becoming more efficient.
That's right.
I've always felt like sleep was important. But this gives it a whole new dimension.
It does.
Okay, what else?
And here's another myth we can finally put to rest. Remember that old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks?
Yes.
We now know that the adult brain can actually grow new brain cells.
Wow.
Particularly in the hippocampus, the area responsible for learning and memory.
So you're saying it's never too late to learn something new?
Absolutely.
That's encouraging for those of us who are lifelong learners.
Right.
Okay, is there anything else?
And one more fascinating discovery. There seems to be a direct connection between the bacteria in our gut, or microbiome, and our brain's ability to heal and change.
Hold on, you're telling me the bacteria in my stomach can affect how my brain heals?
That's right.
That's wild. How does that even work?
It's a relatively new area of research.
Okay.
But it's opening up amazing possibilities for new treatments and therapies. Imagine being able to influence brain healing by changing the bacteria in our gut.
That's mind-blowing.
It is pretty amazing.
Okay, so we've talked about how the brain rewires itself and some amazing real-life examples of this in action, plus new discoveries that are changing how we think about the brain.
Yes.
But what does all this mean for us?
That's a great question.
Can we actually do anything with this knowledge?
That's the best part.
Okay.
Understanding neuroplasticity gives us practical tools for recovery from injury and for enhancing our learning abilities.
So this isn't just theoretical science.
No.
It has real-world applications that can benefit everyone.
Exactly.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Yeah, me too.
So let's get practical.
Okay. It's about taking what we've learned about neuroplasticity and using it to our advantage.
Okay, so let's get practical. What can someone do to help their brain rewire itself more effectively after an injury?
Well, early intervention is crucial.
Okay.
So the sooner you start rehab, the better.
Okay.
But the good news is improvement can continue for years. It's all about consistently working to build those strong neural pathways.
So it's like physical therapy.
Exactly.
But for the brain.
Yes. Think of it like training for a marathon.
Okay.
You wouldn't just run once a month and expect to see results.
Right.
You need to put in the time and effort consistently.
Okay. So consistency is key.
It is.
Are there any specific techniques that are particularly helpful?
One approach that's showing great promise is cross-training.
Okay.
It involves engaging multiple senses and approaches during rehabilitation.
Okay.
So, for example, if you're relearning to walk after an injury, you wouldn't just focus on walking.
Okay.
You might also do exercises that engage your sense of balance and coordination, or even use virtual reality simulations to create immersive learning environments.
So it's about engaging the brain in a variety of ways to stimulate those new connections.
Exactly.
And this principle applies even if you're not recovering from an injury.
Yes, absolutely.
So for those of us who are simply looking to improve our learning abilities, there are plenty of things we can do.
There are.
To make the most of our brain's natural plasticity.
That's right.
Well, that's good news for lifelong learners like me. What are some of your top tips for boosting learning and memory?
One of the most effective strategies is something called spaced repetition.
Oh.
Instead of cramming all your learning into one long session, it's much better to space out your practice up over time.
Okay.
Think of it like watering a plant. You wouldn't dump an entire bucket of water on it all at once. You'd water it a little bit each day to allow the roots to absorb the moisture gradually.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks.
So short, frequent practice sessions are better than trying to learn everything at once.
Precisely. And another tip is to embrace challenges and novelty. Our brains thrive on new experiences and information. When we challenge ourselves with something new, we force our brains to create new connections and pathways, which enhances plasticity.
So getting out of our comfort zones and trying new things is actually good for our brains.
Absolutely. It keeps our mind sharp and adaptable.
And here's a tip that might surprise you.
Okay.
Emotional connection to the material can actually boost learning and memory formation.
That's right. When we're emotionally engaged with something, our brains release certain chemicals that enhance memory consolidation. So if you're trying to learn something new, find a way to make it personally meaningful to you.
Okay. I'm starting to see a pattern here.
Okay.
It seems like a lot of the things that are good for our overall health are also good for our brains. Exercise, sleep, healthy eating, stress management.
You're absolutely right.
It all ties together.
It does.
So it's a holistic approach.
Yes.
Mind and body working together. But let's flip the script for a moment.
Okay.
Are there things that can actually hinder this amazing rewiring process?
Yeah. There
like stuff we should be aware of and try to avoid?
You bet. It's like a two-way street.
Okay.
There are factors that can either boost or block this amazing brain power.
Okay.
We've talked about some of the enhancers.
Right.
But it's important to be aware of the inhibitors as well.
Okay. So what are some of the things that can put the brakes on brain healing and plasticity?
Chronic stress is a big one.
Okay.
When we're under constant stress, our bodies release a hormone called cortisol, which can actually impair healing and hinder cognitive function.
So managing stress is important not just for our mental well-being, but for our brain health as well.
Precisely.
Okay.
Finding healthy ways to cope with stress, such as exercise, meditation, or spending time in nature, can go a long way in protecting our brains.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What about things like alcohol and drugs?
Oh, they can certainly have a negative impact.
Okay.
Excessive alcohol consumption can damage brain cells and impair cognitive function. And many drugs, both legal and illegal, can interfere with neurotransmitters and disrupt brain chemistry.
So moderation is key when it comes to those substances.
Exactly. And let's not forget about sleep deprivation.
Right.
When we consistently don't get enough sleep, our brains don't have the time they need to repair and rejuvenate themselves.
So pulling all-nighters to study or work might not be the best idea in the long run.
Probably not. It's important to prioritize sleep
and
make sure we're giving our brains the rest they need to function optimally.
Okay. So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
We've talked about how the brain rewires itself.
Right.
The factors that can help or hinder that process. And some practical tips for enhancing both recovery and learning.
Yeah.
But before we move on,
I
think it's time to address some of those common brain myths.
Yes.
That seem to circulate, no matter how much science debunks them.
I agree. There are a few that always seem to pop up. And it's important to set the record straight.
Okay, first up, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Okay.
True or false?
Definitely false.
Okay.
We've already established that the brain remains plastic throughout life.
Right.
While the rate of change might slow down a bit as we age.
Okay.
That doesn't mean learning stops. Our brains retain the ability to adapt and form new connections throughout our lives.
So it's never too late to pick up a new skill or learn a new language.
Never. In fact, challenging ourselves mentally as we age is one of the best things we can do to maintain cognitive function and keep our brains sharp.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, next myth. You only use 10% of your brain.
All right.
What's the verdict on that one?
Another false statement.
Okay.
This myth has been around for ages.
Right.
But it's simply not true. Neuroimaging studies show that we use virtually all of our brains throughout the day.
Wow.
Even when we're sleeping.
So we're not walking around with 90% of our brain power, just sitting there untapped?
Every part of your brain has a job to do.
Okay.
Even if you're not consciously aware of it.
Okay, that myth is officially busted.
Good.
What about this one? Recovery from brain damage stops after 6 months.
Okay.
Is there any truth to that?
That's another myth we can debunk.
Okay.
While early intervention is crucial.
Right.
Improvement can continue for years, even decades, after an injury or trauma.
Really?
It might not always be easy.
Yeah.
But it's definitely possible.
So there's always hope.
Yeah.
Even if the road to recovery is a long one.
Absolutely. The brain is amazingly resilient and adaptable.
Okay.
And it's never too late to start working towards recovery.
That's incredibly encouraging.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. Brain damage is always permanent.
Right.
True or false?
False.
Okay.
While some brain injuries can have lasting effects, the brain has incredible compensation mechanisms.
Okay.
It can rewire itself, reroute signals, and even recruit other areas to take over functions that were lost due to damage.
So the brain can actually relearn.
It can.
And reorganize itself to compensate for damage.
It can. It might not always be a perfect restoration.
Right.
But the brain can accomplish some pretty amazing feats of recovery.
That's just incredible.
It is.
You know, hearing about the brain's ability to heal and adapt like this fills me with a sense of hope and possibility.
I agree.
It's like no matter what challenges we face, our brains have this incredible capacity to overcome them.
That's right. And what's even more exciting is that the future of brain healing research looks incredibly promising.
Okay, now you've got me on the edge of my seat.
Right.
What are some of these advancements that have you so excited about the future of this field?
Well, one area that's generating a lot of buzz is optogenetics.
Optogenetics, okay.
Yeah. It involves using light to precisely control specific neural circuits in the brain.
Wait, using light to control the brain?
Yes.
How does that even work?
Well, it involves using genetically modified neurons that respond to light. And researchers can then use pulses of light to activate or inhibit those neurons.
So essentially turning them on and off?
Exactly.
Like tiny switches.
Like tiny switches.
So it's like having a remote control for specific brain circuits?
Yeah.
That sounds like something out of science fiction.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it's rapidly becoming a reality, and the implications are huge.
I can imagine.
Imagine being able to target and activate the exact circuits involved in movement, memory, or even mood.
That would be revolutionary.
It would.
For treating conditions like Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, or even depression, right?
Exactly.
Wow.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Okay, what else?
Another promising area is stem cell therapy.
Okay.
Researchers are exploring ways to use stem cells to repair damage at the cellular level, potentially regenerating lost brain tissue.
So we might actually be able to rebuild damaged brains?
It's possible.
Using stem cells?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It is. We're also seeing amazing progress in the field of brain-computer interfaces.
You mean like those devices that allow paralyzed people to control robotic limbs with their thoughts?
Exactly. That technology is advancing rapidly. And it has enormous implications for people recovering from stroke, spinal cord injuries, and other neurological conditions.
So we're talking about restoring lost function.
We are.
Even in cases where the damage was thought to be permanent.
Yes.
That's a game changer.
It really is.
Wow. Okay.
And then there's personalized rehabilitation.
Okay.
Which takes into account an individual's unique genetic makeup and tailors treatment accordingly.
Okay.
So as we learn more about the specific genes that influence brain healing, we can start to develop highly targeted therapies.
So instead of a one-size-fits-all approach, we'll be able to create personalized treatments that are more effective for each individual.
That's the goal. It's about precision medicine for the brain.
Wow.
And these are just a few of the exciting advancements on the horizon. There's so many talented researchers around the world working tirelessly to unlock the mysteries of the brain and develop new therapies.
Yeah.
It's an incredibly exciting time to be following this field.
It sounds like we're on the cusp.
You think so?
Of a golden age of brain healing.
Yeah.
It's amazing to think about what the future holds.
It really is.
So after diving deep into this topic, what's the most important takeaway you want listeners to remember?
I think the biggest takeaway is that your brain is not fixed. It's constantly evolving and adapting. Based on your experiences, both positive and negative.
So we're not stuck with the brain we were born with.
No. You have more control over your brain's destiny than you might realize.
We have the power to shape and mold it.
You do.
Throughout our lives.
Absolutely. Every thought, every action, every experience you have shapes your brain in some way. It's a lifelong process of learning, growing, and adapting.
This has been such an inspiring and eye-opening conversation.
It has.
I feel like I have a whole new understanding of the brain and its amazing capabilities.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure sharing this incredible journey of discovery with you.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has inspired you to learn more about your own brain and to embrace its incredible potential for healing, growth, and transformation.
Yes.
Remember, you have the power to shape your brain and your life in profound ways.
That's right.
What will you do to nurture your brain today?